And give it up for Sam Lake. Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. There's so many of you. We have reached max capacity. We've done this very few times here in the forum. It's a rarity. And I'm so happy that people made it. My name is Kiki. My pronouns are she, her. And this is a very special session, not only because it's so rare to have Sam Lake here with us, it's also because we have two interviewers and one guest. And I will let Jussi do the rest. But before, I want to point out that there is a QR code here. And by scanning that, you can submit some questions for the end of the session. So please do that. Take your time. No rush. We first have 30 minutes to talk among ourselves.
Thank you very much, Kiki, and thank you from me as well to Sami for joining us today on your summer holiday. We greatly appreciate it. And Sami, as most of you of course know, internationally known as Sam Lake, is the award-winning creative director of Remedy Entertainment, the Finnish game company known for such titles as Max Payne, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and Control. He's here to talk with us about his career, some of these franchises that he has had a key role in developing, and art and life in general. Welcome once more, Sami.
Thank you. Happy to be here. This is my first visit at Tuska, if you can believe it. So, yeah.
We are very happy to have you here. So let's start with Alan Wake, a nightmarish imagining of the struggle of a writer and of the relationship of art and reality. It seems to be your most personal work. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I think so. Especially I would say that the sequel, Alan Wake 2, my most recent game, ended up being very personal along the way. I think, all of these creations end up being personal and come from some aspect of, personal background, and that's where you just kind of draw the ideas from. And then it's a very intense 3 to 5 years, and in the case of Alan Wake 2, we were trying to make it happen right after Alan Wake 1, so it ended up being 13 years, like on and off, trying to kind of make it happen. So it became personally very important.
Yeah. Yes, the sales of Alan Wake #1 were good, but they weren't good enough for this publisher then, and then you had to wait. That was the case.
Yeah, but it's also like this ebb and flow of the whole game industry. Yeah. Like there are trends, and back then especially, there was this real push towards open world games. Obviously, they are big today, but it was almost like, well, these kinds of story-focused experiences are going away, which luckily didn't turn out to be the thing, that stories in games are doing really, really well these days. But it's publishers are looking for a certain thing, and then times change, and they're looking for a different thing, and there is always an element of luck involved in getting funding for a big project.
And it's really wonderful that you stick to it and really then finally were able to release Alan Wake 2. I know you have always been interested in stories that cross the borders of various media, and also bringing Remedy's creations to film and television. So I understand you have spent some time in Hollywood meeting rooms discussing deals for Alan Wake and Max Payne. Please share some of your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, Max Payne ended up being a film, not a very good film. And we were not involved in the process at all. because well, the rights were a complicated thing, and the film rights were sold really, really early on, before the first game was even out, as a idea of a PR thing. Uh, and but for Alan Wake, we've been trying to make it happen for quite a few years. It's complicated. The Hollywood realities work in their own mysterious ways. But really happy with the fact that now we have a deal with Annapurna Pictures on both Alan Wake and Control, and early days, and nothing really too concrete to announce there, but work is ongoing, and we are having discussions on realizing in linear media both Alan Wake and Control.
What kind of people in Hollywood have you met and discussed with? Because we're of course very curious to hear.
You want me to drop names?
Yes, please.
Well, like a lot of different people, and the funny thing about it is that, you know, you might think somebody is a big star and all, and then you are sitting down in the room with them, and you know they have their likes and dislikes, and you know you have a conversation. What I'm really liking with Annapurna is that they are very down to earth, because, like, you know, having those discussions there, that the cliche of a Hollywood producer is a reality as well. That people who are, you know, endlessly complimenting you, but in truth know very little about what is even the topic of discussion, and Annapurna is different, and so they feel like a really great partner, but it's been a long time trying, so hopefully it will happen this time around.
Well, the groundwork is sort of laid down now with, for example, The Last of Us and Fallout. Yeah. There are examples of actually good game adaptations.
Yeah, that's true. Like it takes time. I think that the superhero films are a good example of. There were earlier films that were not that great, and in many ways that comes from the perspective that the creatives working on them were not really passionate about the comic books, where they come from, or familiar with them. But then what we saw was that the generation who had really loved and grown up with those comics end up being fantastic creatives working in film industry or wherever else. And at that point, the adaptations suddenly start to work. I think that we are now seeing the same thing with video games. There is a ton of interest happening, and Last of Us was important, HBO and high quality, to show that, well, video game stories can become successful TV shows. Fallout is a great example as well, and there are others. So I don't think that it's gonna stop. There's gonna be more.
I'll hand over to Kiki at this point, please.
In terms of cast, we also have already seen the faces of actors that have been involved in Alan Wake and in Control. So
Sure.
we would be hoping to see those same familiar faces when the adaptations to TV are made.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I want to try to make these kinds of things happen always. It's complicated and complex, and but I think that in some ways, and this is kind of like interesting conversations around that on the level of what are the opportunities. I think that Last of Us is an example of very direct adaptation. That is very interesting, and obviously the source material is kind of different, but it's very authentically in the world, but it's all new characters and a new story, not an adaptation directly in that way. So there are many different ways of approaching these things, and that relates to, I think, also the who is playing the role.
Yeah. So if an actor that we already know that has played, say, Jesse in Control is not available, you should find a way around it.
Well, like yeah, it's too early, I would say, to really speculate on who plays the role and what even are the characters in the shows
That's a
or
very
the
good point.
film.
Yes. Going back to Alan Wake, one of the biggest themes on it is how art can change reality, and in his case, in a very literal way. Do you personally think that music, film, video games, and art in general can actually impact change in our reality, say at a societal level, for example?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I think, and not to kind of like, I fully believe that video games are an art form and can be art. At the same time, like defining what art is and what entertainment is, and even if there is overlap, always, there are push and pull of commercial needs and then just pure creation. But I feel that the whole concept of art, by definition, is something that you draw something from you, from your experience as a human being, and you examine it and truthfully put it out there, and then people find it, and yes, are changed. Like Yipe just here was saying that getting feedback on from his fans of helping them through dark times, and that is something that some of the themes in Alan Wake 2, as an example, are pretty dark. Like Alan Wake as a character is going through very kind of he's in a dark place, and there's been a ton of feedback from the fans saying exactly that they were struggling in their life, they were going through a hard time, and somehow this resonated with them and helped them and kind of like showed them a way forward, or inspired them to create art of their own, which in itself already, well, that is a very definite change by created by art, and not and I feel that why I'm working on this comes down to reading endless amount of books growing up, and being hugely moved, and that kind of a thing of like I'm alone with these feelings, and then suddenly you read it from the book, and the character is going through similar things, and you realize I'm not alone with this, and this is the human experience, and like inspired me to want to be a writer, and that is a very concrete change in the world.
Yeah. And we do live in very dark times. Right now, we have, well, people also argue that there has always been war, there has always been financial crisis, but we now see it 24/7 in
Yeah.
the palm of our hands. We are bombarded with all of these news, and your art, video games, it is a sort of escapism for a lot of us who can find some solace and comfort in it.
Yeah,
I-
but I would say that many art forms provide that idea of being affected by it, and putting headphones on and listening to music, or going into a movie theater with lights down and just experiencing the film.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. it's so important. I think it's so important to have those messages as well of comfort and not being alone. But is there something else that you would like to spread, a specific message out to people?
I don't know, I, when I'm thinking of a larger story or specific beats in the story, I don't. I have to say I don't really approach it from the perspective of there is a message or a learning to be put out. It's often like, thinking about and putting yourself into a role of the characters and the situation, or in case of horror, like, trying to find those scenarios where you feel fear and then exaggerating it to the supernatural level. Uh, and it's just universal for us to experience these things. And I think that if we do the our work on it, uh, passionately and enthusiastically and truthfully, then meaning and messages and learnings will emerge. But I don't think that that should be, in my mind, should be the starting point. That's where we get to. And sometimes you don't even know what you really want to say. And sometimes for video games, which is very much a team effort, a large team working on it, there is, especially early on, there is this bit of struggle that you are kind of, what you want to tell, but even you haven't kind of, it's a journey of discovery, of finding that exactly. Whereas if in a kind of a game company, there is a lot of desire of, can you do a presentation of the team so that everybody knows from day one, and then we can work on this together. It really is, you can do a stab at it, but most likely it will kind of shift around, and then we'll find it together as well, because it is a team effort always.
Yeah. And talking about the teams or the people working on things, we now are seeing that artificial intelligence is having a huge impact on the production of art and entertainment. What's your opinion on that? Is it just a tool to enhance your workers' skills, or has it already replaced people?
Well, it's a very hot topic, and a big one, complicated one. You can, like, AI, to begin with, it can mean very many different things. And obviously that the kind of the negative thing is for generative AI, and there are real problems. There are problems of, on very fundamental ecological, like the amount of power it takes and amount of water it takes and these kinds of things. The fact that with no compensation, copyrighted material of all sorts of artists have been just crammed in, and these need to be solved, one way or the other. But I think that there are elements there, and game companies being very technological to begin with, there is an element of a tool, but it's very tricky, and I think that the kind of like rules of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, that's a conversation going on, and it hasn't really been figured out. And I don't like, personally, I was mentioning earlier that the idea of a journey. And to me, creative process is always a journey. I don't I don't think that there is a shortcut in getting into something great, or finding the kind of like, okay, this is what I was after. If you can put in a prompt or press a button and it gives you something, it certainly isn't the end result of your journey. And you know, I very strongly, firmly believe that art is a human thing. It's us kind of like creating and us having this need and passion to create different things. Why would we why would we hand that away? The very reason why we are doing this, that's doesn't make sense. I think we'll find a balance of like where it makes sense to you know use it as a tool on something. I don't think it's the art side really. I think that, and I very much believe that all the different artists working on a game project feel the same way, kind of like they put something from themselves, and there is an iterative process and creative process involved, and that doesn't feel what generative AI right now at least seems to be. I think us being so interested about everything as human beings, I think there are bound to be artists who will use AI. But maybe we don't even see right now. Like I on social media, I stumbled upon this dancer, a German dancer. I can't remember her name now, who was capturing her dance on video and feeding that as only data into AI to teach the AI to dance and create this kind of a multimedia experience. And she was purposefully doing it, knowing what the limits of AI being able to understand human movement, pushing it purposefully into places where it breaks down. And that was the kind of like crazy multi-headed, multi-armed, now the leg appears in, and so I think that that's an example of using AI purposefully for an art experience. But that's definitely not kind of what generative AI. We don't need concept art because like we can create endless amount of concept art, or that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So moving from Max Payne eventually to Alan Wake 2, of course, Remedy has grown massively as a company. You have also changed as a writer, I'm sure. You have also ventured into literature, children's literature, and you have had many projects. How do you look at that path? How have you changed yourself as a writer? It's difficult to evaluate yourself, but if you reflect on that, how has the process changed for you?
Uh, I feel very fortunate to have been able to, like, it's over 30 years now, being able to every day work on these game projects and work on these stories and slowly build a whole universe of connected stories. A lot of learning along the way, for sure. I don't, and 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 I don't feel I've reached the end. Like I feel very enthusiastic, and like I feel how our brains work is that when you start this kind of a creative work where you need ideas, uh, and I remember early on I was concerned. I had a good idea, and I was hesitating. Should I say this at Remedy? Because then Remedy owns this idea if we do something. Should I kind of keep it to myself? Uh, and and then through the years, I realized that these ideas will never run out. That there are way too many ideas that compared to how much effort it takes to create a game out of an idea. So all kinds of crazy plans that go way beyond, and remains to be seen how many and kind of like how we will be able to realize even some of them. Uh, I like collaboration is a huge part. I especially saying that Alan Wake 2 was personal to me. This idea of different mediums coming together uh, started to feel more and more important to me to use live action, so kind of film scenes as part of it. Uh, Work on this being Tuska, work on with collaborate with musicians and song makers to create custom original songs. Started with Poets of the Fall and their like our in-world fictional band Old Gods of Asgard related to Alan Wake, but now kind of with Alan Wake 2 we had the whole Fright Music collaboration, and we did this kind of what's now being done in pop music a lot, that you have a song camp, and we had 20 plus song makers come in, and I was showing game material, and I was giving a big stack of my poems that these could be the lyrics that tie into the game, and amazing experience of them starting just going into different studios and starting jamming and kind of like trying out. Um, and you know, Alan Wake's wife is a professional photographer. We had art photos, and obviously Alan Wake is a writer, so we are writing prose, and all of these different forms of art coming together. I I genuinely believe that video games can be kind of the most advanced at the moment form of human expression, where basically everything that has come up to this point, the different mediums, the different forms of art, they can all find their place in a kind of virtual world of a video game. And there is no reason that any of those bits and pieces and crucial parts and fragments would be of any kind of lower quality than these things like standing on their own. And then it's interactive on top of that, and the player is immersed and experiences all of that on their own. So from my perspective, starting out purely as a writer and screenwriter, and then starting to direct and then dabble in and collaborate with amazing artists in different fields, it's been a wonderful journey.
Among those many plans, is there maybe a Samijärvi novel?
Well, I imagined like in early 90s at Helsinki University studying the English language and literature, I was definitely thinking that I'm going to be a novelist. That's what I want to do. And then my friend Petri came tapping on my shoulder. We are having this computer game company and we need somebody to write some texts. Would you come? And I was like, yeah. And so this is a big detour to me being a novelist, 30 plus years ongoing. Yeah, I haven't given up on that particular dream. Let's see when I retire from games.
That's a really interesting origin story. Very cool. Talking about Remedy, your company, how important is diversity and inclusion for you in your company, as well as in your creations, in the stories you write?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of growth, I feel, in the industry. Sometimes it's been a bumpy road, and certainly mid '90s, it was, you know, Remedy, a group of boys, very definitely, you know, the origins of game industry, all in all. These days, it's very different, wonderful. different points of view and different voices at Remedy, and it being a collaboration, I feel it's a positive, very positive and welcome thing. So, and in games as well, like I mean, you know, Control's main character, Jesse Faden, and Alan Wake 2 has two protagonists, one of them being Saga Anderson. Uh, uh, there's been a lot of progress on that along the way, and I hope it keeps on going.
Yes, yes, that is really, really important. It's very close to my heart because only when we see people on stages that look like us, when we see people on games that look like us, and when we see people in gaming studios that look like us,
Yes.
then little girls everywhere in the world and other people who are not as represented will see themselves and say, I can do that too. I can also play Tuska someday. I can also make a video game someday or write a novel.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's important.
Yeah.
Yes. Should we start taking the questions from the audience?
We have, I think this is a new record, 36 questions.
Yes.
Thank you. I hope I'm allowed to answer some of them.
Yeah, well, we'll plow through as many as we can. Time is limited, so apologies already beforehand if your question is not presented. Do you still play games yourself? If so, what game has impressed you lately?
I do play. I play less. Time is limited. It's hard to find time. I really liked Mixtape, a very indie experience. I'm in the middle of Resident Evil Requiem. It's scary. And on the list, looking forward to playing the latest Lego Batman game with my son.
Nice. Anonymous wants to know, Remedy's games contain a lot of Finnish humor. Has there ever been pressure from the publishers to tone it down, or do they trust you by now?
It's interesting. I feel that I mean, growing up as a teenager and young adult, I was really drawing a ton of inspiration from, you know, say American comic books and films and novels, and not really thinking kind of like about Finnish culture actively. Then sneakily, like I've grown to realize how wonderful it is and kind of how exotic it and fresh it is, like from the global audience perspective. And I guess that's kind of like as you grow older, you become more nostalgic. But I purposefully started putting more of it in. Like certainly there were some elements already in Max Payne, but to me, Ahti the janitor in Control was this kind of a turning point that I wanted this kind of a character, and Martti Suosalo enthusiastically came in, and Ahti with his rally englanti and Finnish idioms translated word to word, which is just utter nonsense. And I remember the first session with Martti, kind of we both were kind of like, yeah, we know these guys, like these Ahtis, like you know, and I remember, you know, Remedy being very kind of international and global, and it's I think it's pretty much half and half, like people from all around, and then the Finnish people. And I remember my Finnish colleagues were kind of like hesitating and going like, is this slightly embarrassing? Like you know, and whereas everybody from everywhere else were like, what is this? This is really fascinating. Never have like seen or heard anything like that. And Martti went and won the best side role BAFTA for Ahti in Control. And yeah, and he's wonderful. And you know, writing the lyrics for Sankarin Tango that Ahti performs, and Petri Alanko composed the song, and I kind of like took all of that positive feedback, didn't see anything negative being ever said about Ahti, that okay, now I've been given a permission to go further. And so now we have Peter Franzen doing double role of Koskela brothers, and Water turns out to be a small town founded by Finnish immigrants, and more artist songs, and now suddenly we discover that Thomas Sein, the author filmmaker, comes from Finland, and we have a short film that is, I don't know, we made a short film in Finnish. It's purely optional in the game. You don't have to stop and watch it. It's 15 plus minutes in the movie theater. Doesn't help you with the mission at all. And you can kind of miss it if you move past it fast. We are able to see some data from people how they are playing the game pretty early on after the game came out. I was told that 250,000 people have stopped and watched the whole short film, and I went like, I wonder if that's like the most seen short film in Finnish, because obviously short films are not necessarily, you know, available for watching. And I'm sure that was kind of like, what, 2 years ago. So I'm sure that number has grown. So I think going forward, I will do my best to put in more Finnish culture until somebody comes and slaps on my fingers and go like, Sam, that's too much.
That's very good. Let's plow through more of the questions. Afterwards, speaking, do you regret giving your face to Max Payne?
No,
That's enough, I
yeah.
think.
All right. What makes music feel like part of the world and not just the background?
Yeah, to me, you know, looking at it from storytelling perspective, because certainly, you know, for cinematic storytelling, music and soundtrack is this kind of a direct route to emotion, and hugely important for creating the mood and atmosphere. But as a storyteller, to me, enjoying music, lyrics are really important. And what we are doing now, what we were doing with Alan Wake 2, is also making sure that the lyrics are part of the storytelling and giving you a different point of view into certain elements of the story. And that kind of, to me, lifts it to be part of the overall narrative.
Are you planning to see any bands at your first Tuska?
Unfortunately, no. Like I need to be running after this, but yeah, very cool. Nonetheless, kind of. I will leave that to next year.
Great.
Yeah.
Yes. In the Alan Wake universe, what plot twist or idea are you most proud of?
That's a very difficult question. I love meta narrative. Like studying at the university, I very much fell in love with postmodern writing, like that kind of plays a game of sorts with the reader, and I've taken that to heart, like this kind of a layered experience of complex elements and fragments coming together to form a cohesive whole. So and sometimes yes, it's the really small details in there as well. But I would just, the boring answer is the all of it.
So, do you see Remedy making mobile games in the future? If so, what kind of games would they be?
Not in the plans. So I I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, focusing and kind of like what we do best in like lifting that up and finding ways to make it even better.
Nice. Do you think Remedy has taken influence from other story-driven games, or the other way around? Have you seen the influence of your games in others?
Yeah, I both ways. I think like that this kind of um, being inspired by what others make and be it games, films, TV, any form of art really. It's an important part of also kind of like realizing certain things and yes, I think we have been able to inspire other game makers as well.
Do you have a creative bucket list? I mean, you touched upon this already. For example, are there specific genres you want to work on or creative people you want to work with?
Yeah, there are and maybe like saying saying certain things out loud might manifest it or jinx it. Uh, I mean, I going back to slush music. I might have been 2016 something. I said out loud on the stage that one day I want to do a game that's also a musical, and we do have a pretty cool musical sequence in Alan Wake 2. Uh, so yeah, I will leave other ideas as a mystery, but definitely yes, kind of like there are things that I'm really hoping that I can bring into the next games, new things that have not been able to do yet.
Right. What band would you like to incorporate in your games, like you did with the Poets of the Fall?
Um, I I would think that we were so successful uh, with what we did with music in Alan Wake 2, uh, that I'm really interested in going forward with that kind of an arrangement. Uh, Sometimes it's also a balancing of budgetary reasons. You know, some big stars are out of our budget league, uh, but I felt really fortunate to have a PJ Harvey song in kind of like in the end credits of Alan Wake, and I was fortunate to meet her like pretty much here a couple of years ago when she was visiting. Um uh, Poets kind of are definitely, good friends. I want to look for opportunities to keep working with them. Poe, with whom we licensed a song in the first Alan Wake, and now she created a couple of songs, custom songs, uh, for Alan Wake 2, is in my mind genius, and would absolutely love to find opportunities to keep working with her as well.
Right.
Uh, what advice do you have for people looking to enter the industry, the gaming industry, I assume?
Um, well, times are tough. so, so many people laid off in the game industry. Must keep the kind of a positive attitude and think that like it's always this kind of a pendulum swing, and right now it's looking grim, but we will swing back. Unlike when I was starting out, these days obviously you can go to school and learn, which is a great option, but not absolute must. I think, you know, even back then, many people who ended up working at Remedy were in the modding community. They were creating their own stuff on their own for other games. I would say that that's a great way to learn. And games are a wonderful thing in the sense of like it doesn't need to be a many tens of millions budget AAA thing. It can be a very small but wonderful indie game, and like one person can do it, 2 persons can do it, 10 persons can do it. I would like, you know, if this is your passion, I would just start making stuff, find like-minded people, come together and make something, and that's the best way to learn.
I think that's a great point to end our session with a little mini interactive part. Can we have lights on our beautiful audience, please? Someone asked the question if Sami was going to do the coffee meme at Tuska, and we want to do it with all of you. All right! Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Sami, for joining us. We will continue the forum in a moment, in 15 or 20 minutes. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.